is the history of the Orthodox Church in South Korea?
So from what I understand is the very first parishes that ever opened up in Korea were during the Russian Empire.
Oh,
And the Russian Empire had sent missionaries there. After World War One and World War Two, specifically the Bolshevik Revolution, those churches lost a lot of financial support.
mm-hmm.
But they still persisted. They persisted through the help of various bishops in the area, including St. John of San Francisco.
Yeah, I was wondering that because I was just reading about his story about him going to like Shanghai and everywhere. I was
Yeah.
wondering he went for
And also the Japanese Orthodox had a lot of, because Korea was under the Japanese Empire at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Japanese Orthodox kind of also helped sustain those parishes. But they never really grew rapidly due to the oppression and due to geopolitical matters. It was not long after that that the Korean War happened, and the Korean War basically killed the church. The priest that was here, we don't know what happened to him, but basically just disappeared after the war. Some people think he was killed by the communists. Some people think we don't know what happened. Some suggest he could be a martyr. He could have died for the faith. But we don't know. There's just not enough information to know for sure. But basically, he died. And after that, the Russians were still under the yoke of communism. And so they had no interest in maintaining a parish in a backwater country that was basically poor, right? Mm-hmm. And so what ended up happening was the Greeks took over. There was a lot of Greek shipmen, I guess you could say, or people that unload. They worked the docks.
Okay.
And so they opened a couple parishes for the people there, and Koreans started converting. And since then, there's been a good amount of growth with the Greeks here, and the Russians also opened a few parishes here to kind of reclaim something that they had originally started. And so that's basically where we're at. I think in total there's roughly about 11 parishes, one monastery here in Korea.
Oh, really?
And a new Greek cathedral was just built in a major city, so that's great. So the growth here is probably as in terms of population, it's probably a little smaller than the United States, but it is growing, and there is a good mixture of people from all age groups. A lot of young people, a lot of middle-aged people, and a lot of older people. So it's a healthy parish life.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting because I know South Korea actually has like one of the highest percentages of Christians, like Protestants, Catholics, like in the Orthodox too. So that's really cool. I think you'll probably see a lot of people, from Protestants in South Korea come over to Orthodox. So that would be really cool to see.
If they learn more. The biggest problem South Korea is having is kind of the problem that American English-speaking world had with Orthodoxy in the 70s, which is there's not a lot of material written in English at the time.
Yeah.
But over a few decades, they were able to kind of build up that the
translations
amount of material and translations. Mm-hmm. That's something that we're working on over here in Korea right now. But anyone who's listening to this, if you know somebody who knows who is Orthodox and knows Korean and English, we're always looking for people that can help translate. Something as basic as translating Dire Clips YouTube channels in the subtitles.
Yeah.
Something as basic as that, and re-uploading it with a Korean title.
Yeah.
That reaches young people, and people underestimate the power of social media nowadays.
Yeah, just little things like that. I mean, if you know the language, just spreading it. Like a lot of this stuff, Orthodoxy just needs to get the message out, because once people hear it in their own language, then the truth, they'll come to the truth. But
you got to remember, it's also playing to the algorithms, right? So your Orthodoxy's message is not going to reach Korean people who, the algorithms are designed for Korean language.
Yeah.
And so until you actually start producing content in that language, people aren't going to notice it unless they speak English and spend a lot of time on English social media. So, just a big thing of encouragement. If you know another language and you know that Orthodox content in that language is sparse, something as basic as subtitles on a YouTube video are huge.
Yeah.
So
makes a
big encouragement there for people.
Makes a huge difference. But I think a lot of people are just wondering, like, what's life like in South Korea? Like, I don't know if people know, but it's a pretty wealthy country, and it actually
Yes.
recently, like, just like 50 years ago, it was relatively poor, but it was just kind of this massive wealth creation, and now it's one of the most wealthy and like safest,
Yeah.
cleanest countries in the world. So, how is it living there?
Yeah. I love Korea. It's part of the reason I've stayed out here as long as I have. It helps. My wife is also Korean, so that helps. And my daughter's half, so we're kind of comfortable here. But I know a
Yeah.
lot of foreigners and a lot of people who aren't Korean at all that have families out here and just they don't want to leave. And part of the reason is exactly what you said, is that you have a very wealthy society that has a lower cost of living on average than most countries of its same stature wealth wise.
Yeah.
And the crime is just incredibly low here. Drug abuse is incredibly low here. And those things make you comfortable. So, like, for example, I can send my daughter outside to play with her friends. I'm not concerned that there's going to be some psycho or some gang's
Yeah.
gonna shoot up the neighborhood or something like that. I'm not concerned with that. It's a very welcoming and warm society. I wouldn't say that they're super keen on diversity in the same way that America is, but they're also not opposed to people appreciating what they've built here, and so they're very welcoming and kind to people generally. So.
Yeah. And they have pretty good food, right? Like
Amazing, great for fasts.
Yeah.
Yeah. The great food here. I mean, if you like healthy food, this is the place to be. Especially good tasting healthy food.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So what's some good fast foods there? Because I'm always looking for good fast day foods.
fast food.
Yeah.
So they have kind of all the big brands that you can think of here, fast food wise, but they're kind of Koreanized. But the big one here that is my personal like bad habit is something called Mom's Touch. I don't know if it exists in the States, but it's called Mom's Touch, and it's this chicken joint. Oh my gosh, it's to die over. It's to die. So good.
Yeah.